but my goodness, they're getting better so fast. It's just another example of the speed at which the Chinese car industry learns and improves. Speaking of speed, it's got some. This large people carrier with an emphasis on luxury and comfort has 400 kilowatts and a 0 to 60 time of 5.5 seconds, which is pointless and strange. But I suppose it's got a lot of mass and it needs a lot of grunt to move that mass, and you want to be able to overtake. So there you go. Mentioned that, that's done now. Much more interesting is the battery. It's a big one, over 100 kilowatt hours usable. It's built in conjunction with CATL, and it is just absolutely state of the art. I mentioned the charging speed at the start of the video. I'll just clarify that it does slow down a bit as you get up near the top. It can do the full 520 kilowatts, basically from empty, but when it gets near to full, it'll drop down to a piddly 170 kilowatts, but no lower. And that speaks to outstanding thermal management. We talk about heat pumps a lot, right? Heat pump, make sure the battery is operating at the optimal temperature. Make sure that you're not eating into the battery too much when you heat your car. Well, a heat pump in this car is one of 13 things that are all there to ensure that the battery's temperature is optimal in the name of rapid charging, and in the name of ensuring that that rapid charging doesn't deteriorate the battery, doesn't harm its longevity. Let's chop our way through the interior of the Li Mega. There's 8 square meters of it to get through. Let's just begin at the beginning and work our way backwards. And let's start with these chairs, because they are, oh, they're delightful. They're ever so squashy. This is what they call the magic carpet chair. That's the driver's seat. And this is the co-pilot queen's chair. That's actually what it's called in the press material. They're not passenger princesses anymore. They are co-pilot queens. And it's not a gender term. Gentlemen, you too can be a co-pilot queen if you sit here. This is maybe my favorite thing about the dash of this car. No gauge cluster, but instead of then having a speedo in a little tiny corner of the giant infotainment screen like you get in a Tesla Model 3, I've got it in a little screen in my steering wheel. And I also have it on a heads-up display. And that heads-up display is super detailed. I can have, when driving, the LiDAR's vision projected onto my heads-up display, so it's showing me what the car can see. I've turned that off because I don't really need it. But when I indicate, my blind spot camera, that appears in the heads-up display as well. And it actually means I have a really clean and simple interface as a driver. Yes, there are 2 gargantuan touchscreens in the middle of the cabin, and yes, the home screen for the passengers one is on Chinese Netflix and really invites them just to crack into a binge watch during the drive, but that's them, that's their universe. I've just got a small and simple and very responsive, by the way, steering wheel touchscreen and then a heads-up display, and I really like it. It's actually quite distraction-free, surprisingly. What else? Well, we've got lots of storage, huge amounts of storage. Slightly cheapy button there, but that's okay. More storage, wireless phone chargers. These screens are ridiculously responsive. I mean, it is freaky just how crisp these things are. If I pull up the old model of the car, this is, I don't know why it does a perfect 3D model of the car that shows whether the doors are open or not. And look, if I open my window, it does that as well. But this is all mainly to say that it is unbelievably quick and responsive. And when you use a car that's just got a really good responsive touchscreen, because it's got good software, it's all the more painful when you get back into something that's all slow and sluggish. So I'm really looking forward to this just being the norm. I mean, this is what it's all about, isn't it? This second row is a joke. This is proper private jet stuff. I've got thick shag carpets. I felt bad getting in here with my shoes on. Just so much room in this second row. I've got the seat all the way back in full antisocial mode, and it is magnificent. You've seen nap mode, you know it goes even further back than this too. We've got a little fridge, which also doubles as a warm box to keep your lunch warm. We've got lovely fold-out tables that have real stability to them. That's a lovely, nicely made thing. ID Buzz, take notes. Slightly counteracted by this incredibly cheap and nasty cup holder, but a cup holder nonetheless. Both seats have wireless chargers in the armrest. That's really cool. Massage seats. Front 4 seats all have massage, heating and cooling. All 7 have heating. When have you ever seen a car with 7 heated seats? And incidentally, when have you ever seen this? Is that the biggest window that opens that you've ever seen? Good Lord, that's a lot of glass. Don't crack that, that'd be a real shame. But perhaps the most impressive thing is the back row. Because, you know, a Kia EV9 is a 7-seater, but the rear seats are only for small children that you dislike. This, however, I'm just gonna bring this forward, lean it up a bit. Still very comfortable, still huge room, but now, if I scooch into the back, properly roomy. Good leg room, I can get my feet underneath. I mean, this seat is still super reclined, and I've got all the room in the world. By the way, I can recline too. But perhaps the most impressive thing about these back seats is the fact that they fold completely up. So they fold down and then they flip up. They call them magic seats, and Lee reckons you can get 4 full-sized mountain bikes into the back of this thing. Anyway, I'm just going to pop on my 3rd row heated seat. Excuse me. I'll tell you what, we're passing through the Quantock Hills now on our way to the seaside, and there's some seriously narrow country roads with some big high stone walls either side, and you'd think it would be hellish in this gigantic 5.5 metre long people carrier, but do you know what? It's not too bad to squeeze down small roads. That's partly because it's so slab-sided, nothing protrudes. It's partly because the visibility is excellent and I've got a million cameras, but it also has a really tight turning circle. I think this thing turns tighter than my Polestar, which is a metre shorter. And it's a good thing it's so nimble and agile because, according to Lee, this is a city car. Yeah, no, all of their other models are EV range extenders capable of over 1,000 miles without stopping. This, according to Lee, this is just your little grocery getter, your school run mobile with a mere 300 to 400 mile range. I think my biggest letdown with this car is that they didn't make the decision to pair this incredibly aerodynamic design with lightness and modest power in order to create something capable of hyper efficiency, massive range. That would have been seriously exciting if they could have shaved some of that weight down, reduced the rolling resistance perhaps, and again, just giving it adequate power instead of excessive horsepower, and produced a giant 7-seater that could have done 5 miles to the kilowatt hour instead of 4. That would be truly revolutionary. That would be a road-going version of Mercedes EQXX concept that we looked at a couple of years ago. Having said that, I am just so delighted to see this kind of outside-the-box design language with a great emphasis on aerodynamic efficiency. I'm just so happy to see new electric cars that don't look like old ICE cars, because it's time we were a little bit more imaginative. Don't adjust your screens. We've not driven all the way down to Saint-Tropez. We are still in England. Rubbish country! Right, what do we learn? What do we think? Well, I think it's a really likeable, interesting van. There's not many interesting vans. It's massive and bonkers, but it's got a certain charm to it, and it's a fantastic piece of design. As for what we've learned, what this car has taught us that we'd like to see on future cars, well, there's a few things. Next generation battery thermal management systems allowing for amazingly quick charging. Yes, please. Super crisp, super responsive touchscreens that actually move when you touch them. Yes, please. Voice command that actually works if you speak Chinese. Yes, please. And I really like the simplicity of the driver interface. No big screen, or at least no big screen that you need to pay attention to. Just a little one on the steering wheel and a little heads-up display. I like that. Less distractions. But the big one for me is this emphasis on aerodynamic efficiency. It's time to throw away the cookie cutters of yesteryear and just start making new cars from different shapes. And this is proof that you can have something that's slippery and aerodynamic and interesting to look at. That's the big takeaway from this thing for me. My ears are cold. I'm going inside now. Hope you enjoyed this. I very much did. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And if you have been, thanks for watching.